You ever feel like you don't need an army to make history? Sometimes, it only takes a single word. One word that breaks the silence. One word that shakes the very foundation of power. That's what happened when Jaishankar stood tall and spoke. Not with rage, not with anger, but with a quiet confidence that comes only when you know you're too strong to be pushed around anymore. This isn't just about politics or diplomacy. This is about dignity. Real dignity. The Western world thought they could dictate everything. When it came to Russia and Ukraine, they thought they had all the cards. They expected the world to fall in line to say, "Yes, sir," and do what they said. But they made a mistake. They forgot some countries had grown up while they weren't watching. India is one of those countries. India doesn't take orders anymore. India doesn't beg for permission. India is setting its own terms. So when the West tried to corner India over buying Russian energy, when they tried to shame India for putting its people first, they thought India would back down. But instead they heard one word: survival. And that one word changed everything. Trump's demands and the pressure on India. Survival, packed into a single word, was a philosophy the West didn't want to hear. Because survival isn't just about existing. It's about refusing to let others decide your fate. It's about putting your people first when everyone else wants to put them last. And it's about standing tall against powerful bullies who want you to choose between being smart and being moral. The Western leaders thought they could shame India. They thought they could make India feel guilty for not sacrificing its future for theirs. But when Dr. Jaishankar spoke, it wasn't just policy. It was a declaration of independence. And that's when the West started to panic. Jaishankar stood calm and steady. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He simply said the truth. India's job is to take care of Indian families. The West had no place making India feel bad for doing just that. Jaishankar's measured response. One word that changed everything. That one word, survival, flipped the tables. The West tried to lecture India on morality, on values. Jaishankar calmly reminded them that Europe was still buying Russian gas every day, while telling India to stop buying Russian oil. And when the West tried to use the democracy card, Jaishankar cut through that noise too. He said, "The world's biggest democracy knows how to think for itself." That wasn't arrogance. That was confidence. The kind that comes from knowing you don't need anyone's approval to make good decisions. India wasn't just defending its choices anymore. It was questioning the West. And that's when everything changed. The question that cut through the heart of the West was simple but powerful. Who made you the boss of everyone? For decades, the West had been the global teacher, the global rulemaker. But now India stood firm and said, "Why should your values matter more than our survival?" That simple question, asked with such clarity, shattered the Western narrative. Because let's be honest, why should the comfort of rich countries matter more than Indian families having affordable energy? Why should their politics come before Indian survival? The turning point. While the West played checkers, India was playing chess. The West was worried about looking tough against Russia. India was worried about keeping its factories running and keeping its people warm. And Jaishankar made the choice that any wise leader would make. He put India first. This same strength showed in India's defense strategy. For years, Western countries used weapons as tools of control. Behave and we'll arm you. Act up and we'll cut you off. But Jaishankar flipped that script. He made it clear. India would buy weapons that made it safer, not weapons that made the West feel better about India. India wasn't just buying from Russia. India was learning from everyone, becoming independent from everyone. And that independence made the West nervous. Because when you can't control a country, you fear it. India's strategy of silence and strength. And when it came to China, the West tried to use fear as a tool. "Join us against China," they said. But Jaishankar stood firm. He said, "India doesn't need permission to handle China." India had been dealing with China long before America even existed. And it would continue doing so long after the West figured out its strategy. This wasn't about taking sides. India simply chose to think for itself. Jaishankar's response to the Ukraine crisis wasn't just about choosing a side. It was about choosing peace. And that hit the West harder than any political stance could. India wasn't choosing sides because it was strong enough to stay neutral. And that scared the West more than any enemy could. The power of one word. That one word, survival, wasn't just powerful because of what it meant. It was powerful because it was honest. Honest to the core. Countries exist to protect their people, not to please others. And that truth changed everything. Because honesty doesn't need fancy language or moral lectures. Honesty cuts through the noise. It speaks to what really matters. And that honesty shook the very foundations of the Western world. India showed the world that moral lectures don't work on a country that knows its worth. India showed that the world had changed while the West was too busy running it. Turning point in U.S.-India relations. The world was watching closely. And they saw India stand tall without raising a fist. They saw a country say no without being nasty. They saw a country respect itself first. And they knew that India wasn't begging anymore. After that moment, the world saw India differently. India wasn't there to beg for scraps. It was there as an equal partner. And that sent shockwaves through the West. They learned something they didn't want to accept. You can't guilt-trip a nation that knows its worth. The power of silence. Jaishankar didn't need to shout. He didn't need to threaten anyone. He simply needed to speak truth in a world full of lies. And truth is the one weapon no amount of money or military might can stop. The revolution begins. This wasn't just a political victory. It was a revolution. A revolution where countries choose survival over submission, truth over politeness, and independence over approval. India showed the world how to stand strong without being loud, how to be firm without being mean. India didn't apologize for putting its people first. It simply knew what it stood for and stood firm. And that message didn't just resonate with India. It echoed across the globe. Nations began asking, if India can say no to Western pressure, why can't we? If India can put its people first, why can't we? The age of equals begins. The age of Western countries telling everyone else what to do is over. Not because they lost their power, but because countries like India found theirs. Countries are starting to understand that they can make their own choices. The world is changing, and it's changing because of countries like India.